goodness.
A trash pillow filled with hidden money changed the destiny of a homeless man. If you were on the streets of Lagos, would you risk everything for a fortune you didn't earn? Watch Chinedu's journey till the end, and don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories. The streets of Lagos never sleep. Horns blared endlessly. Danfo buses crammed with passengers shouted for destinations, and the smell of roasted corn mixed with the stench of open gutters. Amidst this chaos, there lived a man nobody cared to notice. Chinedu. Chinedu had once known the warmth of a home, the laughter of a family, and the respect of society. But life, cruel and unpredictable, had stripped him of everything. Years ago, he had lost his wife and little daughter in a road accident along the Abuja-Lokoja highway. The tragedy broke him in ways no one could understand. Unable to cope, he drifted away from relatives and friends until the streets became his only companion. By day, he roamed through the bustling markets of Balogun, begging for scraps or digging through bins for half-eaten meals. By night, he found corners to curl up in, sometimes beneath the flyover at Ojuelegba, other times beside the noisy generators that roared behind shops after closing hours. The city was alive, but to Chinedu, every day was a struggle to survive. People often walked past him as though he didn't exist. Some sneered, others pitied, but none truly cared. Children pointed fingers at him, calling him Onye Ara, madman. He wasn't mad, just broken. Inside him, however, a quiet dream still lingered, the dream of one day sleeping on a clean bed, under a roof that was his own, and eating without fear of hunger clawing at his stomach. But dreams were luxury, and for Chinedu, reality was hunger. One evening, as the sky turned orange and darkness prepared to descend, Chinedu sat near the third mainland bridge, staring at the endless traffic rushing into the city. His shirt was torn at the shoulders, his slippers had holes, and his beard was rough and unkempt. He watched wealthy men in shiny cars zoom past him, their lives far removed from his own. For a brief moment, bitterness stabbed his heart. "God, why me?" he whispered into the noise of Lagos. His voice was swallowed by the honking horns and the pounding music from nearby shops. That night, heavy clouds gathered and rain began to fall, first as drizzle and then as a torrential downpour. People ran for cover, umbrellas opened, and traffic slowed under the sheets of water. Chinedu had nowhere to go. His rags were soon soaked, and his thin body shivered under the cold. He wandered the wet streets until he spotted a pile of trash bags dumped near a deserted alley. Desperate for shelter, he stumbled there, hoping to find a dry spot to rest. Among the black plastic bags and discarded items, something caught his eye. A dirty, worn-out pillow. It was damp and stained, yet to a man who had slept with his head against concrete for years, it looked like treasure. He picked it up, shook it weakly, and placed it under his head as he curled into a corner. For the first time in weeks, his head felt a little comfort. The sound of raindrops tapping against the tin roof above lulled him toward sleep. But then, he felt something strange. The pillow was unusually heavy. Unlike the soft, saggy pillows he had seen before, this one had weight, as though stones or bricks had been stuffed inside. Curiosity pierced through his exhaustion. He pressed it, squeezed it, and noticed the texture beneath the fabric wasn't soft at all. Something crinkled faintly inside. Chinedu frowned. He tore a small opening along the seam, expecting to see foam or cloth. Instead, what he saw made his eyes widen in shock. Bundles of Naira notes, tightly wrapped in plastic, stared back at him. For a long moment, his brain froze. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and peeked again. Yes, it was real. Stacks upon stacks of money hidden inside a filthy pillow that had been discarded like trash. His heart pounded so loudly that he could hear it over the rain. "Jesu, am I dreaming?" he whispered, trembling. His hands shook as he pulled out one bundle, then another. The bills were genuine. Some old, some crisp and new, all neatly tied. There was so much that he couldn't even guess the total. The pillow was stuffed to its core, like a secret vault disguised as trash. Chinedu sat frozen, staring at the fortune in his hands. His mind raced. Questions, fears, temptations. Who could have hidden this money? Why inside a pillow? Was it stolen? Was someone coming back for it? And most importantly, what was he supposed to do now? The rain continued to pour outside, but in that dark alley, Chinedu's life had just changed forever. The forgotten man of Lagos had stumbled upon a secret that could either lift him out of misery or drag him into a nightmare beyond imagination. Little did he know, this pillow of money was not just a discovery, it was the beginning of a dangerous destiny. The night stretched long, restless, and heavy with secrets. Chinedu sat hunched under the leaking roof of the alley. The torn pillow beside him ripped open like a wound. From its insides, bundles of Naira bills glistened in the dim glow of a broken street lamp. His eyes darted from the money to the shadows of the alley, half expecting someone to leap out and snatch it away. He clutched a bundle close to his chest, his heart hammering against his ribs. The sound of the rain had softened now, but inside his mind, a storm raged. What if it belongs to dangerous men? What if someone saw me take it? What if this is stolen money? Yet another voice whispered seductively, Chinedu, this is your miracle. You begged God for deliverance. Look, it has come. For years he had prayed for a breakthrough. And now, lying in the filth of Lagos streets, surrounded by rotting trash, his breakthrough came wrapped in a dirty pillow. He didn't sleep that night. His eyes remained wide open until dawn, scanning every sound. The bark of stray dogs, the shuffle of footsteps in the distance, the hum of motorcycles rushing past. By morning, his nerves were frayed. But the moment he touched the money again, a strange calm washed over him, as though the bills had a heartbeat of their own, whispering promises of freedom. When the first rays of sunlight pierced the clouds, Lagos woke up with its usual chaos. Market women shouted prices of peppers and tomatoes, buses honked impatiently, and children chased each other through the narrow lanes. Chinedu, however, sat hidden in the shadows, clutching the pillow as though it was his only child. Hunger clawed at his stomach, but for the first time in years, he ignored it. Money had blinded even the growl of emptiness. He finally stood, shoved the bundles back inside the torn pillow, and tucked it beneath his arm. His ragged clothes made him invisible to most. Nobody paid attention to a homeless man carrying trash. He walked carefully toward the crowded Balogan market. His plan was simple: test the money. If it was fake, he would know soon enough. If it was real, then maybe God had finally remembered him. At a roadside food vendor's stall, the smell of fried yam and akara made his stomach churn with desire. He hesitated, his eyes scanning the crowd nervously, before slipping a single note from the pillow's corner. His fingers trembled as he handed it to the vendor. The woman barely glanced at him. She collected the note, handed him a steaming plate of yam, and moved on to the next customer. No suspicion. No questions. The note was real. Chinedu ate like a man starved for years. Each bite felt like a celebration, a feast, a victory. For the first time, he wasn't eating leftovers or scraps from bins. He was paying for his food like a man with dignity. Tears stung his eyes as he chewed, though he quickly wiped them away before anyone noticed. The next few hours were a blur of cautious experiments. Chinedu bought new slippers to replace the ones with holes. He bought a clean shirt from a street stall. Small things, nothing too noticeable. But each purchase made him feel lighter and stronger, human again. Yet, with every step forward, paranoia followed him. He kept glancing over his shoulder, convinced someone was watching. At one point, He noticed two men in leather jackets lingering near the market entrance, their eyes sweeping the crowd. His chest tightened. Were they looking for him? Did they know? His mind raced back to the night before. What if this money wasn't just lost? What if it was stolen? That evening, while resting under a bridge, Chinedu overheard a group of men gathered around a newspaper seller. The headline screamed in bold letters, 50 million naira stolen in Lagos bank robbery. Authorities on high alert. Chinedu's blood ran cold. He leaned closer, his ears straining as one of the men read aloud. They say the robbers escaped 2 nights ago, carrying bags of cash. Police are searching every corner. Imagine, 50 million naira. The newspaper showed grainy images of masked men, a broken vault, and a police spokesman promising swift justice. Chinedu's hands trembled. His mind connected the dots. The weight of the pillow, the bundles of cash, the secrecy. This wasn't a blessing. It was blood money, the kind of money men would kill for. That night, as he lay on a wooden bench near the marina, sleep refused to come. He stared at the stars through the cracks of the bridge above him, his thoughts twisting like snakes. If he kept the money, he could change his life forever. No more hunger, no more humiliation. He could buy a room, start a business, wear fine clothes. He could finally feel like a man again. But if the money truly belonged to robbers, they would come searching. And if the police found him with it, he would be branded a thief, locked behind bars, maybe worse. His soul wrestled between greed and conscience, hope and fear. And in the middle of that battle, a face appeared in his mind. Ngozi. Ngozi, the young street vendor who sold roasted plantains near the junction. She had always treated him kindly, offering him food when she could. She had once told him, "Even if the world forgets you, Chinedu, God has not." Her words echoed in his ears as he stared at the cursed pillow. God had given him a choice, not just a gift, and choices had consequences. Little did he know, forces were already moving. The robbers who lost the pillow hadn't forgotten it. Somewhere in Lagos, men with cold eyes and sharper machetes were asking questions, tracing footsteps, searching alleys. And soon, their path would lead directly to him. Lagos never hid its secrets well. By day, the city roared with life, markets swelling with traders, hawkers darting between cars, and the ceaseless symphony of horns, voices, and pounding music. But by night, its true face emerged. Dark alleys whispered, footsteps echoed, and men with cold eyes prowled like wolves hunting in the dark. And Chinedu had unknowingly stepped into their hunt. 3 days had passed since he found the pillow of money. 3 days of eating real meals, wearing clean clothes, and feeling like the man he once was. He had even rented a tiny room behind a mechanic's shop in Mushin, a room with 4 cracked walls, a creaky bed, and no running water. To anyone else, it was a dump. To Chinedu, it was paradise. For the first time in years, he had a key in his pocket, a door he could lock, a place he could call his own. But peace never lasted. Every time he turned the key, he feared someone was watching. Every time he laid on the creaky bed, his ears caught phantom footsteps. His heart no longer belonged to him. It belonged to the money. That evening, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the pillow where the bundles still lay hidden. His hands itched to count them, to touch them, to reassure himself it was real. But he resisted, knowing the sound of crinkling notes carried too far in the night. He closed his eyes, whispering, "God, is this blessing or curse?" The room answered with silence. The next morning, he walked to the junction where Ngozi sold roasted plantains. The air was heavy with smoke and the sweet, charred smell of food. Ngozi stood behind her stand, her wrapper tied tight around her waist, flipping the golden brown plantains with a stick. She was younger than him, perhaps in her late 20s, but her eyes carried a strength far older. "Ah, Chinedu!" she greeted warmly when she saw him. "This one you are shining today. New shirt, new slippers. Did good fortune finally find you?" Chinedu forced a laugh. "Maybe small luck," he replied, though his eyes avoided hers. Ngozi studied him carefully. She had known him too long to be fooled. "Be careful, Chinedu. Sometimes the devil disguises his traps as blessings." Her words pierced him like a blade. He smiled weakly, bought 2 roasted plantains, and walked away. But her voice followed him long after he disappeared into the crowd. That night, danger came closer. While Chinedu sat in his room, drifting between fear and temptation, 2 men leaned against a kiosk across the street. They weren't from the neighborhood. Their clothes were too sharp, their gazes too piercing. They spoke in low tones, scanning every passerby. One of them, tall and lean, with a scar running across his jaw, muttered, "The boss said it was lost somewhere around this side. We'll search until we find it." The other, shorter but broader, spat on the ground. "If any beggar picked it, he won't live to spend a kobo." Their laughter was sharp, cruel, cutting through the night air like a blade. Inside his room, Chinedu felt an unexplainable chill crawl up his spine. He shut the window quickly, bolted the door, and pressed his back against the wall. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. Days rolled by, and the city seemed to close in around him. At the newspaper stands, he saw updates. Police tightened search for bank robbers. On the radio of passing taxis, he heard, authorities warn public to report suspicious money. Every headline was a reminder that he was living on borrowed time. And yet, every time he thought of surrendering the pillow, his imagination painted a cruel picture. Going back to hunger, to ridicule, to sleeping under bridges. Could he really trade his second chance for honesty? One night, sleep finally dragged him into uneasy dreams. In them, he saw his late daughter running toward him, laughing, her tiny arms stretched out. But when he tried to hug her, her hands were filled with blood-stained money. She looked at him with sad eyes and whispered, "Papa, is this what you chose over me?" He woke up drenched in sweat, gasping, his chest heavy with guilt. The pillow loomed beside him like a demon, its contents humming with silent curses. The next morning, while walking past the market, a chilling thing happened. As he passed a stall, a man brushed against him deliberately. The man's eyes locked onto him for a brief second, cold and knowing. Chinedu froze. The man whispered just loud enough for him to hear. "Where is the pillow?" Chinedu's stomach turned to ice. He spun around, but the man had already melted into the crowd. His steps quickened, his breath short, his mind screaming. They knew. Somehow, they knew. He rushed to Ngozi's stand, desperate for a familiar face. She looked up in surprise as he grabbed her hand, trembling. "Ngozi, I need help. Something is happening. Something I cannot explain." Her brows furrowed with concern. "What is it? Tell me." But Chinedu's lips quivered, his throat too tight to speak the full truth. All he managed was, "I found something I shouldn't have. And now, I think they are coming for me." Ngozi's face darkened with fear. She glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. "Chinedu, whatever it is, if it is not yours, leave it. Evil money brings evil men." Her words were a warning, but it was too late. The shadows had already found him. That night, as Chinedu lay in his room, a noise shattered the silence, a faint knock at his door. Then another, slow, deliberate, patient. His blood ran cold. The shadows were no longer closing in. They were here. The knock echoed through the tiny room like a death sentence. Chinedu sat frozen on his creaky bed, his breath caught in his throat. The knock came again, slow, deliberate, heavy with menace. His eyes darted to the pillow lying under the bed, swollen with its secret fortune. He wished he could vanish, melt into the cracks of the wall, but fear had nailed him in place. "Chinedu," a deep voice called, calm yet terrifying. "We know you are inside. Open the door, quietly." His blood turned to ice. They knew his name. The voice came again, sharper this time. "You picked up something that doesn't belong to you. Open, before we break it down." Chinedu's mind raced. The door was flimsy. One kick, and it would shatter. He grabbed the pillow, clutching it tight, and scanned the room for an escape. The small window above the bed, the only way out. The knock became a pounding. The door shook violently. With trembling hands, Chinedu climbed onto the bed, pushed the window open, and squeezed his thin body through. His shirt tore against the rusty frame, but he didn't care. The night air slapped his face as he dropped onto the muddy ground outside. Without looking back, he ran. Behind him, the door splintered with a crash. Shouts erupted. Heavy footsteps thundered after him. The streets of Mushin at midnight were a maze of narrow alleys, sharp turns, and endless shadows. Chinedu darted through them like a hunted animal, his bare feet slapping against the ground, the pillow hugged tight against his chest. Every corner he turned, he could hear them behind him, voices barking orders, curses flung into the night. "Catch him! Don't let him escape!" Dogs barked from compounds as the chase tore through the neighborhood. Sleepy vendors peered from windows, quickly pulling shutters when they saw armed men racing past. Nobody wanted to interfere. Lagos had taught people to mind their business. Chinedu's lungs burned. His legs screamed for rest, but fear propelled him forward. He cut through a narrow alley, hopped over a pile of trash, and burst onto a wider street lit dimly by flickering street lamps. For a brief second, he thought he had lost them. Then, tires screeched. A black SUV skidded to a halt in front of him. The door swung open. From the shadows, the tall, scar-jawed man he had glimpsed before stepped out, his cold eyes locking onto Chinedu. "End of the road, beggar," the man hissed. Chinedu spun and dashed the other way, but another figure emerged from the alley behind him. He was trapped. His chest heaved, his legs shook, and his grip tightened on the cursed pillow. The scarred man advanced slowly, like a predator savoring the moment. "That pillow belongs to us. Hand it over, and maybe we'll let you breathe another night." Chinedu's voice cracked, trembling with desperation. I didn't know it was yours. I just found it in the trash. Please, leave me." The shorter, broader man laughed, cruel and mocking. "Found? You think we care? That's 50 million naira you're hugging, old fool. Do you know how many lives we risked for that? You think you can just keep it?" The scarred man lifted a machete, its blade catching the dim light. "Last chance. Give it, or we take it with your blood." Terror clawed at Chinedu's chest. His legs wanted to collapse, but something inside him refused. He thought of the years of humiliation, of begging for food, of sleeping under bridges. He thought of Ngozi's kindness, of his daughter's face in his dreams. If he gave them the pillow, he would go back to nothing. If he resisted, he might not live to see the morning. His decision came in a flash. He hurled the pillow straight at the scarred man's chest. As the man caught it by reflex, Chinedu turned and bolted down another side street, his bare feet pounding the wet asphalt. Shouts erupted behind him, furious and loud. "After him!" Bullets cracked through the air, sparks flying as one ricocheted off a metal shutter. Chinedu ducked instinctively, his heart leaping into his throat. The chase reignited, fiercer than before. He ran without direction, his body driven by pure survival. At some point, he stumbled into the heart of Balogan Market. The stalls were dark, but the maze of narrow passages offered him temporary cover. He weaved through them, gasping, his chest heaving like a drum. Finally, exhausted, he collapsed behind a stack of wooden crates, his body trembling uncontrollably. He had lost them for now, but the pillow was gone. Or so he thought. Minutes later, as silence settled, he realized something. The pillow he had thrown was a decoy. In his frantic panic, he had remembered the second hiding place. Earlier that day, fearing discovery, he had split the bundles. Half he left in the pillow, half he had stuffed into an old sack under his shirt. The robbers had gotten only half. But half was still enough to kill for. As dawn broke, Chinedu stumbled to Ngozi's stand, his face pale, his clothes torn, his body shaking. Ngozi rushed forward, alarmed. "Chinedu, what happened to you?" He grabbed her hand, his voice hoarse. They are coming for me. They will not stop. I don't know where to run." Ngozi's eyes widened with fear. "Who is coming?" "The men. The money. I can't explain, but they know. They want it back." Ngozi looked around nervously, then lowered her voice. "You must go to the police, Chinedu. If you keep running, they will find you. You can't fight men like that alone." His body sagged with exhaustion, his spirit torn apart. Police meant questions, maybe even prison. But robbers meant certain death. Between two evils, which would he choose? That night, as he lay hidden in Ngozi's small shed, he heard voices drifting from the street outside. The robbers hadn't given up. They were spreading out, asking questions, threatening locals. The hunt had only begun. And soon, the city of Lagos itself would become a battlefield between one broken man, his conscience, and the shadows that wanted him silenced forever. The streets of Lagos were waking up, but for Chinedu, the city had become a cage of fear and uncertainty. The pillow, the cursed treasure, was hidden safely beneath a loose floorboard in Ngozi's shed. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to breathe, but even that small relief was tainted. Ngozi watched him closely. Her eyes were sharp, worried. "Chinedu, this is madness. They won't stop. You can't outrun men who kill without hesitation." "I know," he muttered, rubbing his face with trembling hands. "But where do I go? If I go to the police, they might think I stole it. If I stay, they'll kill me. Every step I take feels like walking on a blade." Her voice softened. "Then we have to be smart. If they're hunting you, you need a plan. And this time, we do it together." Chinedu nodded, a spark of hope lighting in his eyes. For the first time since finding the pillow, he wasn't alone. Across Lagos, the robbers were growing desperate. The scarred man and his partner had split into teams, asking questions in hushed tones, threatening street vendors, and combing the alleys. Every lead brought frustration, every dead-end anger. "Where is it?" growled the scarred man, slamming a machete into a wooden crate. "The boss will not forgive failure. We search until the last beggar, and if we find him, he dies." The other nodded, dark and silent, already calculating routes through the city's labyrinthine streets. They had underestimated one man, Chinedu, the beggar who everyone thought was nothing, who had survived the streets of Lagos for years, was now running not just for money, but for life itself. Ngozi led Chinedu through hidden paths she knew from childhood, alleyways invisible to most, staircases that led to rooftops, and narrow passages between old warehouses. They moved silently, avoiding the main streets, their bodies low, hearts pounding with every step. As they rested in an abandoned storage shed near the Lagos Lagoon, Chinedu finally spoke. "Ngozi, I can't just keep running. Eventually, they will catch me. Or worse, someone innocent will get hurt because of me." Her eyes glistened. "Then we end this. You do what's right, and I'll be there." Meanwhile, the police had caught wind of the robbery and the trail of chaos left behind. Officer Adebola, a seasoned detective known for his relentless pursuit of criminals in Lagos, received reports of the mysterious beggar who had suddenly disappeared with a massive sum of money. "Get me every CCTV, every witness from the area," Adebola ordered. "This is not just theft anymore. There's a man on the run with millions at stake. We need him before someone dies." Within hours, the police presence increased near Mushin, Balogun, and surrounding neighborhoods. Lagos had transformed overnight. Chaos from the criminals, fear in the air, and whispers of a homeless man who had stumbled upon fortune. Chinedu's plan formed quietly. He knew he couldn't fight the robbers head-on. He couldn't rely entirely on the police either. But if he could lure the robbers into a trap, maybe, just maybe, justice could do its work. That night, under the cover of darkness, he and Ngozi moved toward the old bridge near Marina, a place he knew well, one that allowed multiple escape routes and was visible from a distance. They left a decoy pillow in an open alley, hoping the robbers would take the bait. As expected, the scarred man arrived with his partner minutes later. Their eyes glowed with greed when they saw the pillow. Without hesitation, they grabbed it and turned to leave. Chinedu and Ngozi watched from the shadows, hearts pounding. The moment was tense, delicate, a thin line between success and disaster. Just as the robbers disappeared around a corner, with the decoy, flashing blue and red lights cut through the darkness. "Police! Drop the money!" shouted Officer Adebola's team, emerging from hidden positions. The robbers panicked, realizing too late they had walked straight into a trap. Gunfire cracked through the night. The scarred man swung his machete, but bullets found their mark, forcing him to duck behind crates. His partner tried to escape, but police officers blocked the exit. In minutes, the chaos ended. The robbers were handcuffed, the money recovered, and the alley cleared. Chinedu and Ngozi stepped out of their hiding place, hearts still racing. Adebola approached them, recognition and relief mixing in his gaze. You're the man who found this?" he asked. Chinedu nodded. "Yes. I didn't steal it. I just found it." Adebola studied him, then gave a slight smile. "You did the right thing. Lagos is safer tonight because of your courage and your honesty." The city seemed to exhale for the first time in days. The pillow, once a symbol of greed, fear, and chaos, had been neutralized. Chinedu's bravery, combined with Ngozi's guidance, had turned what could have been a disaster into a story of survival and integrity. As dawn broke over the Lagos skyline, Chinedu felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. He had survived the hunt. He had kept his conscience intact. And most importantly, he had proven to himself that even a forgotten man of Lagos could make choices that changed the course of destiny. Yet, even as the sun rose, he knew one thing: life would never be simple again. But for the first time in years, he believed that maybe, just maybe, it could be good. The sun rose over Lagos with golden light reflecting off the towering buildings and the calm waters of the lagoon. The chaos of the night had faded, leaving a city slowly waking to its usual rhythm. But for Chinedu, the world felt different. He walked alongside Ngozi through the quiet streets near Marina. The city still hummed around them, vendors setting up, children running, traffic slowly building, but Chinedu moved with a new sense of purpose. His ragged clothes were replaced with modest but clean attire, his face clear and free from the grime of the past nights. Yet, more than anything, his heart carried a weight lifted. The police had recovered the stolen money, and the robbers were behind bars. Chinedu's honesty had been recognized. Officer Adebola had personally spoken to him, praising his courage and integrity. The media had caught wind of his story, a homeless man who had found stolen money and risked his life to ensure it was returned safely. Headlines across Lagos read, "Homeless hero returns stolen money. Lagos beggar becomes symbol of integrity." Chinedu had never imagined such attention. People approached him on the streets, some offering food, others just pausing to shake his hand. Children stared with wide eyes, whispering to each other about the man who had survived darkness and chosen right over greed. Ngozi had stayed by his side throughout the ordeal. She had guided him, advised him, and protected him when danger loomed. Now, She smiled as she watched him walk with a confidence he had not known in years. "Chinedu, you changed everything," she said softly. "Not just your life, but how people see you. And maybe how they see themselves." Chinedu looked at her, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Ngozi, I don't know what I would have done without you. You saved me in more ways than one." She shrugged lightly, smiling. "I only showed you the right path. The rest? That was your choice." Weeks passed, and Lagos slowly returned to its usual chaos. But Chinedu's life had transformed. The bank and authorities, impressed by his honesty, provided him with a small apartment in Victoria Island, a safe, quiet place with a proper bed, running water, and a small kitchen. A modest job was arranged for him in a local logistics company. It wasn't the wealth the stolen money promised, but it was stability, dignity, and independence. The things he had longed for in the streets. Chinedu often thought back to the pillow. Once a symbol of temptation, fear, and uncertainty, it had become a lesson. The bundles of money were gone, the robbers were behind bars, and he had survived without losing his soul. At the apartment window, he watched the bustling Lagos streets below. Cars honked, motorcycles weaved through traffic, and people went about their lives unaware of the journey of the man now standing tall and free in the room above them. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for life, for chance, for choices. Ngozi continued to visit him. She had started her own small plantain stand again, but now with a small loan from the authorities as recognition for her role in helping Chinedu. Together, they laughed, talked, and sometimes sat in silence, simply enjoying the peace that had once seemed impossible. One evening, Chinedu walked along the marina, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. From the alleys of Mushin, the cold nights under bridges, the fearsome chase through the market, and the final confrontation with the robbers. Every moment had tested him. Every decision had been a step toward the man he had become. He closed his eyes, feeling the warm Lagos breeze on his face, and whispered a prayer of thanks. Not for the money, not for the fame, but for the chance to rise, to choose right, and to reclaim a life he had thought lost forever. The story of Chinedu spread beyond Lagos. He became a symbol of integrity and courage, inspiring others who struggled in the shadows of the city. People who had once ignored the homeless began to see them differently, not as beggars or misfits, but as humans capable of extraordinary bravery and moral strength. And for Chinedu, life finally made sense. He had nothing extravagant, but he had dignity, purpose, and hope. The true wealth that no stolen money could ever buy. The pillow, the chase, the danger, it had all been a turning point. A single discovery in a pile of trash had tested him, challenged him, and ultimately changed his destiny forever. As he walked through the streets one morning, Ngozi by his side, children waved, vendors smiled, and the city of Lagos carried on. Yet, somewhere deep in the heart of Chinedu, he knew he would never forget the lesson of the pillow. That honesty, courage, and a steadfast heart could transform even the most hopeless life into something remarkable. And so, the homeless man who had once been forgotten had finally found his place in the world, not through money, but through the choices that defined him.